Hello, well met friends! Andang here, wondering the answer to a very serious question. Will there be stable masters in Mordor? Now, I know some of you think that this is a completely crazy question. Of course there will be stable masters in Mordor, Andang. Well, until Update 20, I would have thought the same thing. But as you can see here with the Wastes, there's no stable master in this place. Now, sure, they did add in Aragorn's camp recently to the zone and just say that, now there is a stable master. But originally, with the initial release of the Waste, there was no stable master in the entire zone. And, beyond that camp, there is no stable master in this whole area. And so that makes me wonder, with Mordor, will there be a stable master? And, I think that there will probably be at least one, which will be wherever Aragorn's camp ends up being when they go inside Mordor. But I don't think there will be that many. And there's a few reasons for this. First of all, it's Mordor, and so it's going to be, the most accursed place ever in the history of the game. And so I think that from a gameplay point of view, it wouldn't make much sense for there to be a bunch of stable masters all over the place. But at the same time, I think there still has to be a bit of usability to the area for players that don't want to have to travel just all over the place. And they kind of address this with the Wastes by having milestones all over this zone, where, there's one here, and then there's one in Horondir, and so, 2 milestones in this area. So there could be quite a few milestones, I think, throughout Mordor, but I'm guessing there will not be that many stable masters. Now, there are a few other possibilities. There could be horses stabled somewhere in here where it's like, the Nazgul's backup horses or something like that. That could be a potential stable master if we somehow reclaimed it or something like that. But we don't really know at this point what the story will be like in Mordor. How will it be working? Because they say that there's going to be this power struggle inside, which tends to suggest that there will still be pockets of evil and, different factions that will be apparently fighting with each other if there's this type of power struggle that they keep talking about. And so that means that a large swath of Mordor will probably still be heavily under enemy control when we go in. And I doubt that that will change much. I don't think it will be like it was in Moria, where, every single zone there's like, 3 stable masters, or, just ridiculous stuff like in Durin's Way, where you have 5 stable masters just in this one little area. I don't think it's going to be anything like that in Mordor, and I hope it's not, because that would just be horrible, I think, if there were stable masters all over the place. But I have a feeling that there will be different pockets of, an invasion force, which is essentially what we are. We're going to be invading Mordor. Or, at least looking out and, seeing what still remains. And so because of that, I think there will be certain scout groups that will have stable masters throughout. But I don't think that it will be anywhere near the scale of Moria. And a lot of people think Moria is hard enough to travel already, so that could scare quite a few people, thinking, how are we going to be traveling through Mordor then, if, there's going to be even less stable masters. But, we do have our war steed, and we have some other things like that, so I think it won't be too hard to traverse. That being said, there is possibly the biggest example of a place like Mordor is probably Angmar. I think it's an even bigger example. And with Angmar, if you notice, there's one stable master here, and there's one stable master down here, and then there's one stable master when you enter the zone. And then there's also one up by the rift, but that's more just because that's where the raid is. I think that there's a very real possibility that this could be similar to how Mordor is set up. Where, in the different corners, at the very periphery edges of the map, there might be a few stable masters here and there, and then maybe like Aragorn's camp somewhere in the middle. But aside from that, I think there's just going to be these large swaths of landscape that are free of stable masters. And so if we actually go and look at the Mordor map here, I think that there will maybe be a camp somewhere close to, well, I don't know. We probably don't want to go too close to Mount Doom, but I'm guessing there'll be a camp somewhere in this area that Aragorn is going to be staying. Maybe outside of Barad-dûr. I don't know where Aragorn might think that there would be a good place to be looking out. But I'm guessing, somewhere within here there will be the Aragorn's camp. And there will probably be a couple of scouting areas like here, here, and here. And then this area might just be the conclusion of the expansion. There might not be much more beyond this area as far as what the expansion will have. We might be going a little bit further, but I'm guessing that because of how big Mordor is, that there's no way that they're going to be able to cover all of it. And so I'm guessing that, this is a huge area. This is several Angmars in size. I mean, if we look at this, Angmar is like right up here, and then Mordor is, several of those. And so even if we have like 4 stable masters in this whole area, it'll still be even less than we had in Angmar as far as the amount of stable masters per landmass. And so ultimately, there's obviously no way of knowing this, and it completely depends on how the story goes and how we will be addressing our entrance. Will Aragorn actually be trying to take over places inside of Mordor to, go against this power struggle? Will we be taking over places to go against this power struggle? It'll be very interesting to see what happens. And I mean, the potential's endless. They are near the end of the book. There's not that many details given about Mordor. And so my guess is that they're going to be fairly open-ended on what they do within Mordor. And, if we find ourselves, taking some parts of Mordor for the Host of the West, I think that could potentially open up, stable masters that might be entire fortresses or something like that within Mordor. But I mean, even looking at Angmar, they invented a totally new group of people, the Earthkin, just to have this encampment with the stable master here. Is it possible that we could have some group that decides to align itself with us within Mordor, that then, somehow becomes part of the power struggle, and all of a sudden we have this, faction within Mordor that's kind of friendly to us even? I think that would be interesting if somehow there was some group of people inside Mordor that just decided, hey, Sauron's gone, let's get our stake here, and let's align with the people that overthrew Sauron. And I think that would be an interesting concept if they were to, allow us to have a stable master to some type of ally that we have within Mordor. The one thing I think we will not see within Mordor is a ranger encampment like we have up here. I highly doubt that there will be, at least at the very start when we initially go into Mordor, that there will be any type of ranger camp within. And so, they can't really do what they did with Angmar. They might do that, I don't know. It is an open book, but from a lore perspective, there would have been information coming back to the Host of the West if there were scouts inside Mordor, and so they can't even have that. And so for the entire party of the Host of the West, the entire company, there will be, just no real information about Mordor. They have the history and they have stuff like that, but as far as recent intel, they don't really know anything. And so with that in mind, there's going to be essentially no established camp inside Mordor that will have a stable master at, unless there is something like the Earthkin. That's really the only exception to the rule here that I can see. And so overall, I think that, Mordor really could be very much so lacking stable masters throughout the entire area. And I think that could surprise players quite a bit if there is this huge swath of land and it's, very hard to navigate, and if you die, you have a long way to go back. Or if you decide that you want to go to another end of Mordor, you could actually have to travel that whole way instead of having, the swift travel or something like that. So anyway, I just thought that this was an interesting concept, and I'm guessing Standing Stone Games had to have lengthy discussions on how travel would work within Mordor. I highly doubt that there will be, significant means of travel within the area, at least not like we've seen with Gondor. And so it will be very interesting to see how travel will work there, because I feel like that they're going to be fairly limited with what they're able to actually do. And so it could make the area seem much larger when players are having to travel, just upon their war steeds throughout the entire area. I think that that'll actually be a good thing. I think that places like Angmar and Mordor really need to feel like that they're just these wastelands, and that, there's plenty of enemies there, but as far as allies, you're just kind of on your own. There's a few there, and, there's going to be the Host of the West, but beyond that, there's really not going to be that much help there. And so I'm hoping that they will explore that and, include that with travel as well. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how they implement Stable Masters within Mordor, if there are any even. My guess again is that there'll be at least one, but it'll be interesting to see even how that will work. Like, let's say that they put, the Host of the West smack dab in Mordor. Will you have a swift travel to the other Hosts of the West? And so it could be a kind of weird thing where, there's these several Hosts of the West and you're just porting between different Hosts of the West. See what I mean? I mean, it's going to be very hard to think about how travel works, I think, because there's no real established place that the Allies have anywhere within Mordor that we know of right now. They could be making allies as they go through, like I suggested earlier, but right now it looks pretty bleak as far as allies go, and so I don't know how they're going to be able to do Stable Masters. Again, they could do something like Moria, but in my thinking, I don't think that the party ever becomes split up like the dwarves foolishly did with Inside Moria. And so I think that they're going to be fairly limited in how they're going to be able to address travel. I could be completely wrong, and they could be going in, the totally other direction and have Stable Masters all over the place. But I think it would be interesting if they, really stuck to how I imagine Mordor, where it's just, very hard to traverse and you can't really get anywhere quickly. And so I think that that would be the way to go. So let me know in the comments down below how you think Stable Masters should work in Mordor. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you again real soon for more content.